Have you ever met someone who's always in motion? They wake up checking emails, cleaning, planning, achieving, constantly doing something, as if stillness itself were dangerous. And yet, when they finally stop, something feels missing. That quiet moment that should bring peace instead brings an ache, a strange emptiness they can't explain. Some people fear silence more than exhaustion. They'd rather run themselves into the ground than face what waits in the quiet. Because silence doesn't just reveal calm, it reveals truth. And for many, that truth is uncomfortable. Carl Jung once said that when the unconscious holds unresolved emotions, the conscious mind, the ego, finds clever ways to distract itself. Busyness becomes a shield. Every plan, every chore, every goal, not just about progress, but protection. This video isn't about judging that restlessness. It's about understanding it, because beneath that constant motion lies something sacred, a message your deeper self has been trying to send you for years. So stay with me to the end of this video, because by the time we're done, you'll see why some people can't sit still, and how that restlessness is not weakness, but a hidden form of longing. And if you love exploring the hidden psychology behind human behavior, the quiet patterns that shape your life, make sure to subscribe right now. Because every week, we dive deeper into the unseen layers of the mind. And you don't want to miss what's coming next. We live in a world that worships movement. Hustle harder, do more, sleep less. Everywhere you look, being busy is worn like a badge of honor, as if the number of things you check off your list somehow proves your worth. But have you ever noticed how this culture of constant doing leaves people quietly burning out inside? We confuse activity with meaning. We mistake motion for purpose. Somewhere along the way, we started believing that slowing down is failure, that if we stop even for a moment, the world might forget us. Jung would call this the inflation of the ego, when our sense of value becomes tied to what we do instead of who we are. And that's why so many busy people feel anxious when they finally pause. Because stillness doesn't just mean rest. It means facing the question they've been avoiding. Who am I when I'm not achieving? Have you ever felt guilty just resting? That subtle tension. That voice saying you should be doing something. That's not laziness you're fighting. That's your psyche asking you to listen. So don't click away yet. Stay with me to the end. Because in a few moments, we'll uncover what that guilt really means and why it might be the first sign that your inner self is ready to awaken. And if reflections like this speak to something deep inside you, go ahead and subscribe. You'll fit right in with thousands of others exploring the truth beneath the surface, the hidden psychology that shapes our everyday lives. Let's slow down for a moment, not with our bodies, but with our awareness. Because when you look closely, constant busyness isn't always about passion or drive. Sometimes it's a quiet form of escape, a way to keep running, not from the world, but from ourselves. Carl Jung once said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. And he was right. Some people drown their anxiety in noise, in work, in chores, in endless schedules, not because they love movement, but because stillness feels unbearable. Silence is like a mirror, and not everyone is ready to look, because in that reflection, they might see emotions they've buried, sadness that was never expressed, guilt that was never resolved, or loneliness they never learned to soothe. So instead, they fill every moment to avoid the one thing they fear most, being alone with themselves. But here's the truth. This isn't weakness. It's protection. It's the psyche's way of saying, I'm not ready to face that yet. Busyness becomes a coping mechanism, a way to survive the inner storms without being pulled under. So if you or someone you know struggles to slow down, try not to judge it. Maybe it's not ambition driving them. Maybe it's fear of what silence might say. And that's okay, because awareness is the first step toward healing. Once we understand what the busyness is hiding, we can finally start to listen to what our soul has been trying to tell us. Stay with me, because next we'll uncover the hidden wound that keeps this cycle alive. It's something most people never see in themselves. And if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the deeper truths we're about to reveal. Behind many restless hearts lies a single wound, the quiet belief that I'm not enough. People who can't stop doing often grew up believing that love had to be earned through achievements, helpfulness, or perfection. They learned that being worthy meant being useful. And slowly, their self-worth became conditional. I matter only when I'm achieving. As adults, this belief turns into a relentless cycle of doing, not because they love activity, but because the stillness feels unsafe. When they stop, the old voice returns, whispering that they're falling behind, that they're not doing enough, that maybe they're not enough. Carl Jung described this as a complex, a cluster of emotions and memories that quietly repeat themselves beneath our awareness. It's not logical. It's emotional muscle memory. Think about someone who can't relax even on vacation. Their body might be lying on the beach, but their mind is racing, counting unfinished tasks, replaying worries, searching for the next thing to fix. They don't know how to be, only how to do. But at the core of that restlessness isn't pride. It's pain. It's the child inside them who once believed love had to be earned. So if this feels familiar, don't blame yourself. You were never meant to prove your worth, only to rediscover it. Keep watching, because next we'll explore how to begin the healing, how to stop running, and finally feel at peace in your own stillness. And if reflections like this help you see yourself more clearly, subscribe now, because this journey of self-understanding is just beginning. Have you ever noticed how sometimes, when life feels too heavy, your motivation just disappears? You tell yourself you've lost interest, but deep down it's not laziness. It's self-protection. In Jungian psychology, this has everything to do with psychic energy, the invisible current that flows between the conscious and the unconscious mind. When the unconscious feels threatened by pressure, fear, or emotional conflict, that energy doesn't vanish. It withdraws. It hides away, like a river retreating underground when the surface becomes too dry. That's why people say, I just don't feel motivated anymore. Because sometimes giving up isn't weakness. It's the psyche's way of conserving energy while it tries to make sense of an inner struggle. But here's the paradox. The same instinct that protects us also limits us. Avoiding discomfort keeps us safe, but it also keeps us small. Carl Jung once wrote, "There's no coming to consciousness without pain." Growth requires friction. Awareness requires tension. When we avoid what scares us, we pause our own evolution. So ask yourself, gently, without judgment, is your comfort protecting you or quietly imprisoning you? Stay to the end, because next we'll go even deeper into the part of you that actually causes this cycle of giving up, the part that's been waiting for understanding, not discipline. And if you haven't yet, subscribe, because each video helps you uncover one more layer of the psyche, bringing you closer to who you truly are. When people give up easily, it's rarely about the task itself. It's about the feeling behind it, an echo from long ago. Behind most patterns of quitting lies the inner child, that younger version of you who once felt unsupported, unseen, or scolded for not getting things right. Carl Jung believed we all carry our past selves within the unconscious, and they still whisper through our choices. When the adult you walks away too soon, it's often that younger self taking over, the one who remembers the sting of trying and still being told it wasn't enough. To that child, failure isn't about losing. It's about being rejected. So giving up feels safer. It prevents the heartbreak of trying again and facing disappointment. This is why even strong, capable adults can feel paralyzed by small challenges. It's not weakness. It's memory. It's the emotional body remembering what it once cost to hope. But here's where healing begins. Instead of judging yourself for giving up, pause and ask, which part of me needed comfort, not correction? The moment you do that, something shifts. You stop fighting the behavior and start listening to the wound beneath it. That's what Jung called integration. When we make peace with the forgotten parts of ourselves. Healing means learning to reparent that inner child, to become the gentle voice it always needed, to say, it's okay to try again. You're safe now. You won't be shamed for falling. Stay with me, because in the next part, we'll explore how to transform this understanding into real strength, how to move from avoidance to alignment. And if you're finding pieces of yourself in these words, take a moment to subscribe, so you don't miss the next step on your journey back to wholeness. In today's world, comparison has become almost automatic. We scroll through social media and see highlight reels, perfect moments, flawless achievements, filtered happiness. And without realizing it, We measure our slow, messy progress against someone else's peak. It's not just envy that hurts us. It's the silent feeling of falling behind. The psyche begins to whisper, "You're not enough. You're too late. You're invisible." And slowly motivation fades. Because when the gap between what we expect and what we see grows too wide, the mind protects itself by shutting down emotionally. It's easier to quit than to feel inadequate again. Carl Jung would say this is a reflection of the collective shadow, society's obsession with success and performance that seeps into our personal psychology. We absorb it unconsciously. The result? A world full of people chasing validation instead of fulfillment. But here's what social media doesn't show. Real growth happens quietly, not in the spotlight, not on a feed, but in the unseen moments when no one is watching. Your journey doesn't need applause to be meaningful. So don't quit because someone else seems ahead. You're not late. You're simply on your timeline, and your pace is perfect for the lessons your soul is meant to learn. Stay with me till the end, because in the final section, we'll uncover how to turn this understanding into transformation. And if this message speaks to you, take a second to subscribe, because every video we share is a step away from illusion, and a step closer to truth that there's a quiet danger in giving up too often. It starts to shape who we think we are. After enough unfinished goals, missed chances, and maybe later moments, a person starts to carry an invisible label. I'm just someone who never finishes things. This isn't just a habit anymore. It becomes an identity. And once that belief settles in, it begins to repeat itself. Each new challenge triggers the same inner script. Why bother? I'll fail anyway. In Jungian psychology, this is what's called a complex, a cluster of emotions, memories, and beliefs that control us from the shadows. It's not the situation that stops us. It's the story we tell ourselves about it. And the more we believe that story, the more power it gains. But here's the truth. This identity isn't who you are. It's a defense mechanism, a narrative the psyche created to protect you from the pain of disappointment. And the moment you see it, you start to take your power back. So next time you feel that urge to stop, pause and ask, am I protecting myself or limiting myself? That single question can break the pattern, because awareness interrupts repetition. Stay until the end. The final section reveals how to transform this very cycle into purpose and how to turn giving up into growth. And if you haven't yet, subscribe, because you're not just watching another video. You're learning how to rewrite your inner story, one truth at a time. Beneath all the busyness, beneath the endless lists and goals, there's something softer, a quiet longing, a wish to slow down, to breathe, to simply be. But for many people, that longing feels dangerous, because if they stop even for a moment, their ego begins to tremble. Who am I if I'm not doing something? When someone who's always busy finally stops, they may feel sadness first, and then relief. That sadness isn't weakness. It's the body and psyche exhaling after years of holding tension. It's the sound of your soul stretching back into its natural rhythm. Carl Jung said that healing begins where consciousness meets what was unconscious. And rest, true, guilt-free rest, is exactly that meeting point. When you allow yourself to stop, you meet the part of you that's been quietly waiting to be seen. Rest, then, isn't laziness. It's an awakening. It's a return. You don't have to earn it. You deserve it, because you're human, not a machine. So ask yourself gently, what if doing less allowed your soul to speak more? And stay with me till the end, because next we'll explore how to bring both worlds together. The part of you that acts, and the part that longs to be still. And if you're finding peace in these words, don't forget to subscribe, so you can keep walking this path of quiet transformation with us. Healing this pattern doesn't mean choosing between rest and action. It means learning to hold both, the doing and the being, together. Carl Jung called this individuation, the lifelong process of becoming whole by reconciling opposites. For the overbusy soul, the goal isn't to stop doing. It's to start doing consciously instead of compulsively. Still work hard, still dream, still build. But let silence have a seat beside you. Because when you invite stillness in, your work stops being a race and starts becoming an expression. Try this in small ways. Spend 5 minutes a day in quiet. Journal instead of planning. Watch a sunset without reaching for your phone. In those small sacred pauses, you begin to rebalance the scales between effort and ease. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Busyness is not your fate. It's your signal. A message from your soul asking for gentleness. You don't need to destroy your ambition to find peace. You just need to bring awareness into motion and presence into pause. Stay to the end, because the next section will show you what that peace actually feels like when you stop running and finally arrive. And if this reflection feels like home, subscribe now, because this channel is your space for calm wisdom, mindful living, and Jung's timeless guidance for the modern world. There comes a moment when the storm inside finally quiets, when the mind softens, a breath deepens, and life no longer feels like something to control, but something to experience. This is the peace of presence. You begin to feel life again, not just manage it. Colors seem brighter. Time slows down. Conversations go deeper. You start noticing beauty in small, ordinary moments, the kind you used to rush past. You rediscover your creativity, your intuition, your gratitude. You realize that true productivity isn't in constant motion. It's in conscious living. Stillness doesn't kill ambition. It refines it. It reminds your soul that you're already whole, even when you're doing nothing. If you can learn to rest without guilt, you've already mastered balance. Because peace isn't something you find. It's something you remember. And if you want to keep exploring that kind of calmness, purpose, and Jung's wisdom for the modern mind, take a moment to subscribe and stay connected to this journey of deeper awareness. Maybe the bravest thing you can do right now isn't to add another goal, but to pause, to breathe, to allow yourself a moment where you don't have to achieve, fix, or prove. In a world obsessed with movement, stillness is an act of quiet rebellion. Carl Jung once said, "Solitude is for me a fount of healing." And perhaps that's what we're missing. Not more doing, but more being. Maybe the people who always stay busy aren't just driven. They're searching for themselves in motion. And now, it's time to find themselves in stillness too. You don't have to earn rest. You don't have to prove your worth. You just have to remember that you're human, not a machine. So if this message touched something within you, if it reminded you to slow down, breathe, and return to yourself, subscribe and stay with us. Because here we explore not just how to do more, but how to be more. And sometimes that simple shift from doing to being is the most profound transformation of all.